Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. The meeting of the Rhode Island Ethics Commission for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024 will come to order. The first item is a motion to approve the minutes of the open session held on June 25th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Moved by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Susie. A roll call vote. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabideau?
Aye.
Commissioner Senarini?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie?
Aye.
Commissioner Susie?
Aye.
And the chair abstains. Okay, and before we go to the director's report, you'll see on the agenda that there's an item about my service. And that was prompted by a letter to the governor's office that I sent yesterday, making official something we had communicated earlier, which is that after about 10 years, almost 10 years of service, I'm stepping down from the commission effective tomorrow. So I'll say more about that, but that is what. How should I read that? Thank you. So I'll move to the director's report.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I'll have more to say about that in a moment also. I'll just note for the people that have tuned in to the live stream of the meeting, that the meeting agenda and the meeting materials are available on the commission's website. We will stay live streaming throughout open session. We're going to go into executive session for one complaint matter, and the meeting will end for the live stream purposes at that time. But if you stick around, we will come back into the live streamed meeting afterwards, where the chair will report out any votes that were taken in executive session. We'll also post any votes that were taken on our website after the meeting. With that, just to mention complaints and investigations, we currently have 8 total complaints pending at the Ethics Commission right now. We probably, it's possible that by the next meeting we'll have a few more, because we're planning on filing a few financial disclosure complaints for the last of the people who didn't file their 2023 financial disclosure statements. We're on the tail end of that. And then I guess I'll just jump ahead a little bit, as long as we're talking about financial disclosure. We are in the candidate financial disclosure pattern right now. So the people who are running for elective office in Rhode Island filed their declarations of candidacy at the end of June. It was June 25th, 26th. And then they have 30 days after that to file last year's financial disclosure with the Ethics Commission. And the way that works is we ask the Secretary of State to send us a list of all the candidates that declared their candidacy, and they sent us a list of almost 3,000 people. However, only about a third of those people are state or municipal elected candidates. The rest are political committees and political offices that also run through the Secretary of State's office. So we have to manually filter out about 2,000 of those people. That left us with 834 candidates for elected public office. And then we filter it a little bit more, because some of those people are incumbents, or they already filed their statements for various other reasons. So ultimately, a week or two ago, we mailed out 369 notices to these people, and they're all coming in right now. So we'll get all those candidates filed up, hopefully, with plenty of time before the election, so the public can access their financial disclosure statements if they wish to. Moving back up to advisory opinions, we have 6 pending advisory opinions, and 5 of them are on today's agenda. So that's really great. With APRA requests, we had 9 requests since the last meeting. 8 of those we fulfilled within 1 business day. The only one that we weren't able to do, we still haven't closed out yet, but that's because they asked for historical financial disclosure statements, including those that go all the way back that we have in storage, that we have to call up from storage. So we're working with them to find out if they want to pay for us to recall things from 20-something years ago from storage, which we're happy to do if they would. So that tolls the APRA clock until they get back to us and let us know how they want to do with that payment issue. And then finally, under general office administration, as the chair noted, today is the last meeting for our chairperson, Marissa Quinn, who it's been my pleasure to work with since you were appointed to the Ethics Commission back in 2015. And to kind of honor that, I have prepared and would like to propose to the commission your adoption of a resolution in appreciation of Chair Quinn's service. And so with your permission, I'd like to read the proposed resolution and then ask for the commission to consider voting to adopt the resolution. See, there was a lot to write, so the print's kind of small.
Are you sure you want to read it?
I had
It's
to-
a lot to read.
I had to print out
Can you
a
summarize?
slightly larger version for my.
Let's get to the good parts.
So the proposed resolution. Whereas on April 7th, 2015, Governor Gina Raimondo appointed Marissa A. Quinn to serve on the Rhode Island Ethics Commission. And whereas Marissa Quinn was unanimously elected by her fellow commissioners to serve as the commission's chairperson on January 7th, 2020, having previously served as vice chairperson from 2016 to 2020, evidencing the confidence and respect of her fellow commissioners who have held her in their highest esteem over many years. Throughout her tenure on the Ethics Commission, Chairperson Quinn was known for her commitment to openness and transparency, for encouraging and engaging in thoughtful debate during hearings, and for treating every person appearing before the Ethics Commission with dignity, fairness, and due process of law. And whereas Chairperson Quinn has led the Ethics Commission through many prominent opinions, investigations, and administrative trials involving officials at the highest levels of government in Rhode Island, always without fear or favor, and adhering to the highest standards of ethics, transparency, independence, and nonpartisanship. And whereas under Chairperson Quinn's leadership and encouragement throughout the global COVID-19 pandemic, the Ethics Commission continued to provide all of its constitutionally mandated services and to perform its necessary functions, including the administration of financial disclosure, issuance of advisory opinions, and enforcement of the Code of Ethics, while pioneering the adoption and use of remote meeting technology for state boards and commissions, and successfully hosting a fully remote administrative trial at a time when the state judiciary had suspended its own trial calendars. Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Rhode Island Ethics Commission acknowledges and extends its profound appreciation to Chairperson Marissa A. Quinn for her many years of distinguished service to the people of the state of Rhode Island, during which she helped guide the Ethics Commission's unique mission to foster and ensure the open, ethical, and accountable administration of government in Rhode Island. So,
Very nice.
all of that is. I would ask, I assume you might want to recuse from this vote?
I'll move to approve. Second.
And shall I run the vote? You can run the vote,
I
right?
think I'll run this vote. Let's see. Any comment, question?
I would just like to comment, by statute, terms are supposed to be 5 years, but recognizing the chair lady's great value to the commission, she wasn't replaced for another 5, and she is so chosen to move on. And I know the amount of time, especially for the chairperson, that it takes, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to say also that I've served on a lot of boards in my career, and there have only been 2 chairs that I feel have been extraordinary, and I'm sitting next to one of them.
The limited time that I served on this August board, I come to really appreciate your professionalism and your total cooperation. Thank you.
I would just like to say that you have been a guiding light for us. I think that you didn't just serve as our chair, but you're a model for all of us, how we should conduct ourselves. And it's made a lasting impression on me and will change me moving forward.
As the rook, I'm only sorry that I only had 2 meetings with you, and I wish I could have gotten to know you better. So
Thank you.
obviously, you've made an impression on all these members.
All right, I changed my mind. No, okay.
Withdraw that one. Any more comment or question? Put it to a roll call vote. I'm just gonna go around the table rather than any particular order. Commissioner Centerini?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabideau,
Aye.
Commissioner Susie,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Aye.
and the, what I call vice chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Oh. Yeah, yeah. All right, okay, well, thank you. Well, in my letter to the governor, I said how proud I was to serve, how privileged and honored I was to serve, and that was because of, I think, the excellent work that the commission does, that I really think that I've come to learn that the commission is, if not the strongest, one of the strongest in the nation. And I think that's because of how it was formed as part of the, the Constitution and because of its scope of jurisdiction and the code and all of those things that are really important infrastructure. But the most important thing is the people. And that is all of you. I've had this great opportunity to serve with amazing commissioners. I don't know the total number that I have served with over 10 years, but all very impressive people that take this role very seriously because it's service to the state. And I think the people, I would also acknowledge that my former employer, Brown University, was so generous in just letting me sometimes for, miss meetings to be here. And it's really important that the employers of the state allow employees to do that. So in addition to the commissioners, of course, our legal counsel has been a tremendous partner in this. The watchdog groups, the media, Common Cause, they pay attention, they ensure that we do this role and serve the mission of the commission with integrity and objectivity. And if they see any concerns, they let us know, and that's important. And of course, the most importantly is the staff of the commission. We hear it every week. We hear people who are even having difficult moments with the Ethics Commission thank us for the expertise and dedication of the staff. And it's the executive director, the attorneys, the investigators, the administrative staff. It's really incredibly impressive. And I have, and people always say to me, it gives me so much optimism for what the state, and you hear these things about state civil service, and it's just not true. People work hard, they take their jobs really seriously, they bring pride to their work, and so that's made it both joyful and really pretty easy. So, so thank you all. It's been a great pleasure, and I'm sure you'll say something at the end of the meeting about next steps and succession and all that. All right, so let's move on that. Okay, the next item is advisory opinions, and we have the first sign-in is Adam Millard.
And if I may, just as a reminder, we have 8 sitting commissioners, and even though we only have 6 today, 5 votes are needed to issue an advisory opinion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. This advisory opinion is at the top A reminders. Mr. Millard is a member of the East Greenwich Historic District Commission. He was appointed to it in February of 2024. Mr. Millard lives in a home which he has owned since October of 2022 and which is located in the East Greenwich Historic District. He would like to both install a window and replace most of the existing windows on his home. He describes the windows as falling into disrepair. Because of his home location, however, he needs to request a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic District Commission before he makes any alterations to the outside of his home. He has already applied for such certificate. However, his application is currently pending until he receives permission from the Ethics Commission through this advisory opinion to appear before his own board. He intends to recuse from the Historic District Commission's discussions and decision-making relative to his application, and he's already filed a recusal form. Here, because the petitioner's proposed conduct falls squarely within the code's prohibition of representing himself before his own board, he has requested advisory opinion. And the Ethics Commission shall consider whether the unique circumstances represented by the petitioner herein justify the issuance of hardship exception. The Ethics Commission reviews questions of hardship on a case-by-case basis, considers several factors. However, none of those factors, single factor is determinative. The Commission considers the totality of the circumstances. Some of those factors are whether the subject property involved the official's principal residence or principal place of business, whether the official's interest in the property was pre-existing to his public office or was recently acquired, whether the relief sought involved a new commercial venture or an existing business, and whether the matter involved a significant economic impact. Here, the petitioner seeks to add and replace windows on his home. His own, the ownership of his home predates his appointment to the Historic District Commission. Further, the relief sought relates to his personal residence rather than any commercial venture. Based on the petitioner's representations, the prior advisory opinions issued and the relevant provisions of the Code of Ethics, it is the opinion of the staff that here the totality of the circumstances justifies issuance of a hardship exception. Accordingly, the petitioner may appear personally or through a representative and represent himself before the Historic District Commission in order to seek the certificate of appropriateness. However, as the petitioner correctly anticipated, he must recuse from any discussions and decision making relative to his application. And pursuant to section 5E, the petitioner shall also, prior to his appearance before the HDC, or simultaneously with it, inform his fellow members of the commission that he has received this advisory opinion and he will be recusing from the matter. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Millard, you've heard the staff's recommendation. Do you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to say?
No, I don't think it was fairly comprehensive.
Commissioners, any questions? Is there a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
So I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Centarini, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Roll call vote. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabado?
Aye.
Commissioner Centarini?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie?
Aye.
Commissioner Susie?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the next sign-in is Joe Graziano. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Mr. Graziano's draft can be found at tab E in your binders. Welcome, Mr. Graziano. Mr. Graziano was employed by the Department of State. He is a senior public information specialist. He recently declared his candidacy for the House of Representatives in Rhode Island, and he seeks guidance from the Ethics Commission regarding whether the code prohibits him from receiving campaign contributions from lobbyists, given that in the course of his public employment, he is tasked with discretionary duties involving lobbyists from which he intends to recuse. Looking at Mr. Graziano's official duties as pertain to lobbyists, he assists with the management and maintenance of the online register of lobbyists, including their clients, lobbying activities and expenditures. He helps put together training seminars, and he investigates complaints against lobbyists and recommends appropriate dispositions to the Department of State's Public Information Director. Mr. Graziano states that his discretionary authority relative to the administration of fines and penalties against lobbyists is limited to those occasional instances when the Public Information Director is absent. He states that if such an instance were to occur, he would recuse from participation, and the administration of the fines and penalties would either be addressed by the Public Information Officer upon her return, the Public Information Director upon her return, or by the Deputy Secretary to whom the Director reports. Now, looking at Mr. Graziano's candidacy for the House, he represents that he will not solicit political contributions from lobbyists, either directly or through a surrogate. He also represents that he will recuse from participation in his capacity as a public employee for the Department of State in all matters involving lobbyists for which he would be in a position to exercise discretion regardless of whether that particular lobbyist had contributed to his campaign. He clarifies that this would include investigating complaints against lobbyists and recommending appropriate dispositions to the Public Information Director. The Code of Ethics serves to regulate the potential interaction between Mr. Graziano's public duties as a state employee and his private campaigning for public office. But the code does not bar those simultaneous endeavors, provided that he adheres to the code of ethics. Specifically, Mr. Graziano may not do any of the following. He may not take official action in his capacity as a state employee that will directly financially benefit himself, his family member, his business associate, or his private employer. He may not use his public position or confidential information received through it to obtain financial gain for himself, a member of his family, his business associate, or a private employer. He may not solicit or accept any gift, loan, political contribution, reward, or promise of future employment based on any understanding or expectation that his vote, official action, or judgment will be influenced thereby, the seldom heard from 5G of the code. And finally, pursuant to Regulation 1.4.4, he may not solicit or request, directly or through a surrogate, any political contributions from a subordinate for whom in his official duties and responsibilities, Mr. Graziano exercises supervisory responsibilities. Notably, Regulation 1.4.4 does not prohibit or limit the right of a subordinate to make unsolicited political contributions, which are subject to the protections of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. By definition, under the code, specifically Regulation 1.4.4C, the term subordinate includes the following: other employees, contractors, consultants, or appointed officials of the officials or employees agency. Is a lobbyist a subordinate? It's not clear. The definition of subordinate does not include the word lobbyist, nor is it clear whether under Section A of the same regulation, a lobbyist is someone over whom in his official duties and responsibilities, Mr. Graziano exercises supervisory responsibilities. He investigates complaints against lobbyists and recommends appropriate disposition to the Department of State's Public Information Director. Whether that is supervisory is also not clear. Mr. Graziano states that he will recuse from participation in his capacity as a public employee in all matters involving lobbyists for which he would be in a position to exercise discretion, regardless of whether that particular lobbyist had contributed to his campaign. Because Mr. Graziano represents that he will not solicit or request any political contributions from lobbyists, either directly or through a surrogate, the draft does not address the code's prohibitions, if any, against soliciting such contributions from lobbyists. And again, the code does not prohibit or limit the right of a subordinate to make unsolicited political contributions, which are subject to the protections of the First Amendment. The question we are left with is whether Mr. Graziano, a state employee seeking political office, may accept unsolicited campaign contributions from lobbyists for whom in his public capacity he is tasked with discretionary duties from which he intends to recuse. The staff's recommendation is that the code does not prohibit him from doing so. However, Mr. Graziano was advised that no public time or resources may be used in furtherance of his campaign, and there must be no understanding that campaign contributions from lobbyists or anyone else would affect any official action by him. And Mr. Graziano is indeed advised to seek additional guidance from the Ethics Commission if additional questions regarding his candidacy arise. I'm happy to answer any questions or to defer to Mr. Graziano as appropriate.
Mr. Graziano, thanks for being here. You've heard the staff's analysis and recommendations. Do you have any comments, questions?
Maybe a little clarification on surrogate so that I can understand, so to make sure to stay within, would be helpful.
A campaign manager, a campaign worker, your sister-in-law,
Okay,
anyone.
okay.
Okay, on your behalf.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So the Ethics Commission has never set a precedent on whether a state rep can solicit campaign contributions if they're a state employee from a lobbyist?
I found nothing on point for that.
I just
Now, I'm sorry, a sitting representative or sitting senator,
has a sitting senator who is a state employee can or cannot solicit contributions from a lobbyist?
no, cannot,
We've set precedent on And I apologize.
No, no.
I'm just trying to understand, and for his sake, he might win this election,
Mhm.
and next year, whatever, League of Cities and Towns, he might, solicit a donation from them. I want to be clear on whether or not we have set precedent on that, or whether he has to come back to us should he decide to do that. That make any sense?
It does make perfect sense.
Okay.
I cannot recall seeing an advisory opinion.
Okay.
But I defer to
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Brandon.
incumbent legislators are allowed to solicit political
Right.
contributions from lobbyists. I mean, that's the,
But if I work for the state of Rhode Island,
even if he
in
works
his
from
position.
now, that's the issue,
That
is
is
his
the-
position
Okay,
interacts with lobbyists. So no, we don't have any advisory opinions on point as to whether someone in the Secretary of State's office who works
Okay.
in that office.
thank you.
Certainly. And had the petitioner not stated that he will not solicit, and he will recuse, I'd still be researching.
Understood. Thank you.
So what percentage of your work involves this portion regarding lobbyists?
So most of what I do is administrative and guiding them to filing their reports or registering into the online database, and training as well. The amount of times in which a request for a waiver, for example, comes through our office, it's done in a way that the lobbyist would fill out information either on the online waiver form or via email. And I would typically defer it to the director. I usually don't make those kind of decisions. And then definitely in their absence, I typically hold off anyways, waiting for the director's discretion as to whether or not this qualifies as waiver worthy. And then there's a series of reasons as to why, written in the code, as to what it may fall under if we approve that waiver.
So you'd still be doing this sort of administrative, here's how you fill out this, here's how you fill out that, but without any kind of discretionary.
Correct.
And what portion of it, so I'm just trying to get a sense of. Does that put, and that doesn't have anything to do with the decision, but I'm curious, does that put your employer at a disadvantage at all? Are you now?
Not during this time, just because the session is over.
Mhm,
So the number of reports coming in is a lot smaller.
mhm.
The reporting period is typically the 15th of every month, except for after session. The next report isn't due until, I believe, of course, I'm not remembering off top, October, and then in December. So 2 more reports before the end of the year.
Any other question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So you cannot solicit contributions from lobbyists, but you can accept them.
Mhm.
And I'm uncomfortable with that.
That's the Constitution.
Is it right?
The Supreme Court ruled on that.
Yeah, it's
So,
just, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was
Yeah.
making that face. I'm just
Yeah.
not comfortable with it, but I understand you have a right to do that.
Well, we have a right to do it. I have a right to give him, if I worked for him, he's running, he can't ask me, but I might feel like I really want to support this candidate and you can't stop me from writing that check. Is that right? I understand that.
It's kind of gray there.
Yeah, and that's when I think the recusal part does make a lot. At first I was like, well, why recuse if you don't really have to? But then I realized, someone writes you a check, even if you don't solicit it, after the fact, you might realize, okay, here is somebody. Okay.
But the last paragraph, which she didn't mention, was kind of significant, because at least mentioned the appearance of impropriety.
Mhm, I agree.
Right.
Which we cannot enforce, but which, you have an obligation toward it, particularly in your situation. I think that's a particularly significant paragraph.
I agree.
That's where my concern came from too.
All right, is there a motion to approve the staff's recommendations?
So moved.
Thanks, for a second.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rabideau, seconded by Commissioner Jones, roll call vote. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabideau?
Aye.
Commissioner Centerini?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie?
Aye.
Commissioner Susie?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Great, thank you very much for seeking this one and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, the next are the Middletown three.
Yes.
The first is,
Mr.
Dennis-
Amarant is here,
okay, great, so Leon Amarant.
and given that Mr. Toronto's, is similarly
Yeah,
factually based, I thought maybe we'd take that one next.
okay, that sounds good. Good morning.
The tab for this draft is letter C. Good morning, Mr. Amarant. Good morning. I have a quick proposed edit. The draft states that Mr. Amarant was appointed to the Middletown Planning Board in January of 2023. It was actually February. If and when the draft is approved, I ask that it be approved with that edit. Mr. Amarant has asked whether the Code of Ethics prohibits him from taking part in planning board matters regarding the revision of an ordinance regulating residential short-term rental properties, given that Mr. Amarant, his parents, and certain of his business associates own residential short-term properties. This is in fact the same ordinance that you will hear more about in the draft prepared for Mr. Toronto. The circumstances are such that the revised ordinance, if passed, will apply only to new residential short-term rental properties and not to existing ones. Mr. Amarant states that there are currently approximately 585 residential short-term rental properties in Middletown, and that they are regulated by a municipal ordinance that will likely soon be revised. The town council recently selected one of two versions of the draft revised ordinance to submit to the planning board for its review and input. After that, the draft will then again be considered by the council, which will eventually have the final vote. Mr. Amarant represents that he currently owns 2 residential short-term rental properties in Middletown and that his parents own 3. He adds that there are also several individuals for whom he provides paid services as a self-employed contractor who owns short-term rental properties in Middletown. And Mr. Amarant is the treasurer and a board member of the Short-Term Rental Organization of Middletown, or STROM, which he describes as a nonprofit organization that supports the operation of short-term rental properties in Middletown in a reasonable manner. Mr. Amarant's clients and his fellow STROM officers and board members are his business associates under the code. Mr. Amarant states that should the draft revised ordinance be passed by the town council following input from the planning board, it will apply prospectively only. He emphasizes that he, his parents, and his business associates will all remain subject to the existing ordinance and be exempt from any revised ordinance that may pass. Mr. Amarant adds that he has no plans to purchase or operate any additional residential short-term rental property that would be subject to the revised ordinance, nor is he aware of any member of his family or any business associate having such plans. The immediate issue is any conflict of interest, in any conflict of interest analysis under the code is whether the petitioner's official activity will result in a direct financial impact upon himself, a member of his family, his business associate, or a private employer. Here, Mr. Amarant states that if the revised ordinance, if passed, will apply prospectively only. Under those circumstances, his official participation will not directly financially impact himself or anyone in his family, specifically his parents or his business associates, as all of them will remain subject to the ordinance that is already in place, based upon the facts as represented. Nor is it reasonably foreseeable that Mr. Amarant or anyone in his family or his business associates will be directly financially impacted by his participation in this matter before the planning board, because to his knowledge, no one in those groups has plans to purchase another short-term rental property that would be subject to the revised ordinance. Accordingly, it is the opinion of staff that Mr. Amarant is not prohibited from participating in future planning board matters concerning the potential revisions to an ordinance to which he and his family members and business associates will not be subject. Mr. Amarant is advised that should the circumstances change such that it does become reasonably foreseeable that he or a family member or business associate would be directly financially impacted by his participation, he must either recuse or seek additional guidance. And I would say that this would include but not be limited to any discussion about whether the revised ordinance should apply not only to prospective short-term rentals, but let's talk about making it apply to everyone. That's it, time to recuse. I'm happy to answer any questions or defer to Mr. Amaron as appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Amaranth, you've heard the staff's recommendation. Do you have any questions, comments?
No.
Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Mr. Amaran, you're exempt from the new ordinance if it goes through, right?
That's my understanding. That's what's been presented, yes.
Do you know what the basis of the exemption is?
I think according to, state law,
Grandfather?
grandfathered in, yes, that's, the statute, yes.
Your use does not require a special use permit or did not when you got it.
It did not.
So now a new STR, I guess they are, would require a special use permit.
That is under this proposal, yes.
You're a member of the planning board, correct?
Yes,
You know how difficult it is to get a special use permit,
I've had to do that in the past, yes.
right? It's very difficult to
It's
get.
a high bar, yes.
Right. And will is it your opinion or your sense that the new ordinance will prevent other STRs from being approved?
It will not prevent them, but it establishes a very high bar to get one. Because you have to go through the special use process, the process to obtain a special use permit.
So there'll be 585 STRs that need no approval, that need nothing further. And anybody else who wants to open one will have to go through a process with the planning board and then the zoning board, correct?
I believe I think it goes to the zoning board.
But you have to give a recommendation, right?
When I received, I went through that process to convert a single family home to a two-family home back in 2006. I did not have to go to the planning board. I had to go to the zoning board. do
Straight to
that.
zoning.
It was straight to zoning, but I do know that, I understand that some of the rules for the planning and zoning have changed this year. I'm not sure where that all stands with Middletown.
Me either.
Right. So there is a process that I am aware of that somebody would have to go, usually with an attorney, present, argument for obtaining a special use permit. There's a vote by a board. It's a high bar to get one, according to what has been proposed.
Just concerns me that.
I understand where you're going. I think if we ended up going further, that's when we would end up asking the question about class exception. Right, because you're saying basically they're shutting off.
They're
the
shutting
opportunity.
off, and that's a
opportunity.
financial benefit, it sounds like to me. It may not be direct,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
see.
the question. But it
Good
seems
point.
to me that the existing STRs are getting a benefit because they don't have to worry about competition from others.
Hmm.
The number of units available is only 585, which means they have the opportunity to raise their rates knowing there aren't gonna be new ones coming in. And so it concerns me.
Yeah.
No, I just to follow up on that, and I think in most communities that I've been to, I practice land use stuff for a living. A special use permit requires, as Commissioner Jones pointed out, that you go to the planning board first, get their opinion, and that opinion goes to the zoning board. So I'm curious to see if that is the case, because, it could put you in a position if people come to you and you're on the planning board where you do have a competitive advantage.
I believe if that were to happen, I would probably recuse. I've
Or come
recused in
here for
other.
advice.
This
Yeah,
one's
this-
a little tricky, because it is, it's been presented as a prospective ordinance.
Right.
Every other matter involving short-term rentals that has come up to the board, I have recused. So this one I wanted to seek some guidance on because I wasn't sure what to do. And I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, going forward to begin with, to be honest with you. And I will also say that there's the 585 is state registrations. There's 355 local registered STR. So there is a process in the state where you have to register with the state first, get a license number, and then with that, then you go to your local municipality to get a license number. So those numbers don't match.
Yeah.
You know, the number that I would, probably rely on is the local one because there is a vetting process to make sure those are active.
So again, you recuse when a matter for an individual owner comes before you of the planning board. So what you said before.
No, matters of policy and, you know, research and how to treat short-term rentals with regard to the local laws and regulations. Those matters have come before the planning board in the past.
And you've recused
And I
from
have
that.
recused,
Yeah.
yes.
And in this case.
This is an ordinance.
And it's a recommendation.
From the town council, yes.
No, it's a recommendation from you to the council. You don't adopt ordinances.
This ordinance was proposed by the council,
Right.
by a subcommittee, and then went through the council, then it was sent to the planning board for review and deliberation.
Right.
And then it goes back to the council,
So it's not been adopted, it's proposed, it's been sent to you and the board for review,
yes,
and you're in the middle of that review or starting that review. That's what triggers you to be here.
yes, this should be on next month's docket.
Yes, Commissioner Ritchie.
Did you have any involvement with the language in this proposed ordinance?
Not directly,
Well, comment.
so there was a subcommittee that was established, it was 3 members of the town council. No public representation in that subcommittee. Those 3 members came up with this in the subcommittee. I did attend as a member of the public and gave input, in my opinion, as to, you know, whether, you know, some input as to, you know, what to do with
Do
this.
you recall what your input was? You tell us.
I can, yeah.
Please.
I was against it. I agree with Mr. Jones that I don't think limitations on people's properties are sound or fair.
Justify
Yes,
that response.
yes. There's also provisions in this ordinance that I actually find, I mean, if you guys want to hear my opinion on this,
It's okay.
I can, or
I don't think it's germane,
I
it's
don't
okay.
think so.
Yeah, that's not the question.
I did provide input, yes.
She's allowed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? This is a fairly narrow.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, decision or advisory opinion. And obviously, clearly, you know to come back if there are other things that arise that prompt other questions. All right, is there a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Susie. Roll call vote. Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabideau.
Aye.
Commissioner Centerini.
All right.
Commissioner Ritchie.
Aye.
Commissioner Susie.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Toronto, his draft is at tab B. And he intended to be here today. And in my perfect world, I was gonna start with that one and then
Yeah.
piggyback with Mr. Amron, but these things happen. That's live theater, as they say. So Mr. Toronto, yesterday afternoon, when I called to confirm he'd be here, said that his work required him to attend a meeting in Pennsylvania this morning, and I said, I hope it's by Zoom, and he said, no, I'm hitting the road shortly,
Wow.
so he really, really wanted to be here. He serves on the Middletown Town Council,
Hmm.
and he has asked whether the code prohibits him from taking part in discussions and decision-making on the revision of the ordinance that you've just heard so much about, because he owns a short-term rental property. Again, the circumstances are such that the revised ordinance would apply only to new short-term residential properties and not existing ones. Mr. Toronto identified approximately 525 residential short-term rentals in Middletown. And a subcommittee comprised of 3 of town council members, but Mr. Toronto was not one of them, recently presented to the full town council a series of recommended changes to the current ordinance. They had 2 different drafts. And Mr. Toronto had already asked for this advisory opinion at that time, and he had made a motion to the town council to continue the matter until he could get his advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission. His motion was not seconded, so he recused from the town council's discussion and vote to select one of those drafts to be forwarded to the planning board for its review and input. And again, after the planning board weighs in, the draft comes back to the council, which will eventually have the final vote. Originally, it was anticipated that Mr. Toronto's request would result in a class exception analysis, given that he is one of a large number of Middletown short-term rental owners upon whom the revised ordinance was expected to apply. The day before the subcommittee presented its proposed revisions to the town council, Mr. Toronto learned and promptly informed me that as the owner of a current residential short-term rental property in Middletown, he would remain subject to the existing ordinance and be exempt from any revised ordinance that may pass. So this changed the analysis considerably. Especially because Mr. Toronto states he has no plans to purchase or operate any additional residential short-term property that would be subject to the revised ordinance, nor is he aware of any family member, business associate, or his private employer having such plans. So again, the immediate issue, will his official activity have a direct financial impact upon himself? In this case, himself. Again, it's prospective only, and under those circumstances, his official participation will not impact himself. And based upon the facts as represented, nor is it reasonably foreseeable that anyone in his family, business associate, private employer will be directly financially impacted. Again, that he has no knowledge of them having, any of those people having plans to obtain a short-term rental. So accordingly, it is the opinion of staff that Mr. Toronto is not prohibited by the code from participating in future council discussions concerning proposed revisions to the ordinance that he will not be subject to. Mr. Toronto is advised in the draft that should those circumstances change, including but not limited to what I already said, if there's going to be chatter about, well, maybe this shouldn't be prospective, maybe it should be everyone, he knows to sit it out or give me a call. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I would just say the same thing I
Yeah.
said in the earlier one. I have the same concern, but I understand why in these circumstances we'll give the opinion we'll give it. But I do have concerns about this whole approach to things where some get it and some don't.
Sure.
Did you consider that in your analysis? Because when I read it, I made complete sense to me that, okay, this is not gonna have an impact on the individuals who are coming forward for an opinion. But I hadn't thought about the piece of, it does, because it really shuts down or makes it more difficult for have competition.
When I started, it didn't hit me from the start like a bolt, but I am trained, and what I do is I take the facts presented.
Yeah.
I do the analysis, and then, but giving some thought to that, it strikes me that that is not so much a direct financial impact,
Right.
because there would have to
Right.
be the intervening activity of someone applying and being told no.
Yeah.
And then would that be direct? Well, if this person could raise their rent or get more people, it's
Right.
not,
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote on this and automatically
Yeah.
I'll be impacted for better or worse.
Class.
So I don't know. I suspect, in all sincerity, that we're gonna be getting more
Yeah,
requests from Middletown
in other
and
towns.
local towns.
Right,
This
it's
is
happening
a
everywhere.
real big issue.
Yeah.
And town is very much divided from what I understand.
And again, it's that in a sense, it's the benefit of forcing other landowners to go through an expensive, time consuming and potentially or likely unsuccessful process. That's my concern. For these.
Well, but that's.
But then, oh, I know. The question is whether
You
it's
should go
direct or indirect.
testify at the
I'm not going there on that. I can't do that, by the way. That's my, it's my
Okay.
concern for the
Yeah,
beginning. I've
that's a good
expressed
point.
it and I don't need to go any further.
All right, is there a motion to accept the staff's recommendations?
So,
Is there, it's moved by Commissioner Susie, seconded by Commissioner Jones, roll call vote, Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Robidoux.
Aye.
Commissioner Zanarini.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie.
All right.
Commissioner Susie.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Excellent. And the last is a William Nash.
Who happens to be a Middletown
I
planning board.
saw that.
But I promise you, you will not hear the term short-term rental uttered from me during this brief presentation. Mr. Nash did want to be here today. He's unable to attend and said it is fine to proceed in his absence. Mr. Nash is a member of the Middletown Planning Board. He's also a member of the Middletown Public Schools Building Committee, to which he was appointed by the Middletown School Committee. As vice chair of the building committee, Mr. Nash helps with the work relating to Middletown's plans to design and construct a new joint middle and high school by using funds from a $190 million bond that was approved by a majority of Middletown residents in late 2023. Mr. Nash seeks an advisory opinion regarding whether he's prohibited by the Code of Ethics from participating in planning board discussions and decision-making on matters in which he had participated and voted as a member of the building committee. So Mr. Nash represents that Middletown's land development regulations require that the school project receive approval from the planning board. The building committee's applications to the planning board relative to the project will be limited to those for master plan, preliminary, and final approval. The application for master plan approval will go before the planning board in September of this year. It will be presented to the planning board on behalf of the building committee by the building committee's architect, project manager, and the town solicitor. Later this year, or perhaps early next year, the building committee will seek preliminary and final approval of the project from the planning board. The petitioner explains that he will not personally appear before the planning board relative to any of the building committee's applications. The Ethics Commission has indicated that the Code of Ethics does not consider a public body to be a business, or the relationship between a public official and a public body to be that of business associates. The Ethics Commission has also consistently opined that a public official is not prohibited by the code from voting on a matter as a member of one public agency and then voting on the same matter as a member of another public agency, provided that the provisions of the code cited in our draft are not otherwise implicated. Mr. Nash is not a business associate of either the planning board or the building committee. He states that neither he nor any of his family members, business associates, or his employer will be directly financially impacted by any of the planning board's voting on this project. He also states that his membership on the building committee does not impair his independence of judgment with regard to the planning board duties that he has. Finally, Mr. Nash will not personally appear before the planning board relative to any of the building committee's applications. Accordingly, for all of the foregoing reasons, it is the opinion of staff that Mr. Nash is not prohibited from participating in planning board matters relative to the building committee on which he participated and voted. I could have said that much better, but
Thank you.
you get,
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the staff's recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rabideau, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Roll call vote. Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabideau.
Aye.
Commissioner Centerini.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritchie.
Aye.
Commissioner Susie.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Right, thank you. I think you stay up there for the education update.
well,
Yes.
why not? My pleasure to present you with the annual education update for fiscal year 2024. The course ran from the period of July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of this year. A total of 2,609 people received ethics training from the Ethics Commission. This reflects a modest increase of 69 people from last year. Turning first to the live trainings, and by live, I mean in person, via Zoom, or some hybrid of the two. There were 49 trainings in total attended by 2,260 people. This is 3 fewer trainings than last year, but 228 more attendees. Live trainings are broken down by month and category on page 1 of the handout in your binder. Page 2 contains an alphabetical listing by category of the groups that received the training. There were 11 municipal trainings attended by 468 people. There were 22 state trainings attended by 1,084 people. Now that was separate and apart from the new state employees for whom ethics training is part of their orientation each month. They numbered 575 individuals. So the total number of state employees, whether seasoned or brand new, to whom ethics training was presented live this fiscal year was 1,659. A couple of live trainings of note: the leadership from DEM had training, the Public Utilities Commission and the Division of Public Utilities and Carriers, URI's Board of Trustees had training, and 216 Department of Transportation employees received training over 4 sessions last February and March. The senior employees and directors from RIPTA had a live training. And Jason delivered trainings to members of the House and Senate and staff as he does annually. Regarding live trainings to municipalities, since fiscal year 2019, 36 of the 39 cities and towns have participated in live ethics training. The 3 that have not, Lincoln, Narragansett, and West Greenwich. I communicated with their clerks in fiscal year 2024. They stopped short of committing to a date. Needless to say, all 3 are a priority for this year. Kudos to the city of Pawtucket. After not taking part in ethics training since before fiscal year 2019, in June of this year, 195 city employees received training during 3 sessions over 2 days. And ethics training for Pawtucket's elected and appointed officials is scheduled for the evening of August 1st. Turning now to the pre-recorded ethics trainings, those are the ones that are available online. The numbers of people from state departments, boards, commissions, and agencies who completed the training are on pages 3 and 4 of the handout. The totals of people from municipalities who completed the training are on page 5. 349 people completed the pre-recorded training in FY 2024. Last year, there were 354, so that's pretty consistent. Of that 349, 264 were state employees. My goal for fiscal year 2025 is to have 300 to 400 state employees complete the pre-recorded training. My plan to accomplish that is to review my list of state agencies, to contact the appropriate individual from each to arrange for group access to the training, which can be done for state people because it's the state's learning system that they take this class. And then I'm going to ask the agency to distribute a joint email from me and the department head, written by me, encouraging completion of the training within 30 days, which was the original intent of this, to have people take it within 30 days. I am not satisfied with the current ratio of people from municipalities who requested the training to those who completed the training. In fiscal year 24, there were 260 requests for the training and only 85 people completed it. I tracked the people that completed, and I did take into account that the clerks from both Cumberland and Warren had each asked me to send the links to 32 and 29 employees respectively, noting that only 3 people from Cumberland and 4 from Warren completed the training. I suspect that it wasn't mandatory, and something tells me the employees didn't know the links were coming, but the clerks did say, yes, send it to everyone. I was encouraged by the 37 requests for the pre-recorded training that I got from Block Islanders, but only 8 completed it. So they may be my trial group of people who requested but did not complete the training, to whom I send a reminder. I'm still kind of weighing that out and thinking about the most appropriate way to do that. In FY 25, my intent is to collect 200 to 300 requests from municipalities, which is kind of what almost happened for the pre-recorded training, but I want a 75% completion rate this particular year. I've got to jog before I can run. I'm still finalizing my plan to accomplish that, but it will probably include a revised email from the one I personally send to everyone that requests, adding a gentle but strong suggestion that the training be completed within 30 days. Again, the original intent. I'm also going to draft an email to replace the one that currently goes out from the state when they send the link for me. Something that says more than here's the link that you asked for. To date, I have asked that people from municipalities invited to attend a live training not be told about the alternative of taking pre-recorded training until after the live presentation. I want to avoid people saying, I won't go in person, I'll just take it online, and then not following through. It remains my position, at least for now, in large part also because of the energy in the room during a live training for elected and appointed officials from the same community at the same time. The current prime candidates for the pre-recorded training, state employees, followed by municipal employees and members of state boards, commissions, and agencies. State and municipal employees are generally unavailable to attend a group training in the evening, and or even during the day in many cases. That's why I do back-to-back training, so half the employees can come in the morning and then the other half can come in the afternoon or on another day. State boards, commissions, and agencies are generally comprised of smaller groups of people who already face crowded agendas or limited meetings. So taking the pre-recorded training online makes sense. I will, of course, continue to deliver live ethics training to any group that asks, regardless of the size. I usually do not schedule many trainings during the heavy vacation months of July and August. Usually 2 or 3 requests trickle in. This July, I've completed 5 trainings for 284 people, and I have another scheduled for tomorrow. So summer's kicking as well. I currently have 4 trainings scheduled in August. I have no complaints about this, by the way. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the report or about the education program in general.
I have one question.
Yeah,
What is the penalty for not complying?
there is no penalty because
Interesting.
ethics training in Rhode Island is not mandatory. So
In other states, is a legislative fiat that makes it mandatory, you know?
I think some states have mandatory.
There's a question about
Yeah.
the efficacy of whether you require training or not. I mean, I know that there's been research done about whether or not it actually matters in terms of the
Why have
outcome. You might.
Why have ethics? Why have
No,
a
the
code of
numbers are
ethics?
good. I mean, they could be better, but they're good.
I know what you're saying, but why have a code of ethics if there is a compliance factor to get all those who are subject to the code to at least have the education aspect? I'm befuddled by that, I really am.
There, some states, the executive branch will require state employees to take an ethics training. I don't think it's a legislatively mandated. Interestingly, in Rhode Island, there is one mandated ethics training, and that's for the state senate. The state senate put into their rules a few years ago that all senators are required to take an ethics training once a year. And so that's part of why we did that.
That's laudable. But the
We are
rest-
headed-
the rest should be doing it.
Sure, we're headed in the right,
Aspect.
headed in the right direction. When I started, there were 1,800 people a year trained. Now there's more than 2,600. So we're moving in the right
But
direction.
You have 10 entities, according to the current facts, that have not, they've ignored.
No, those are online. That's the
I'm,
online.
I'm calling them both. They didn't go online, they didn't do it live either way.
So I had a
Yeah.
similar question, and then when she reported that over the 5-year time period, nearly every
Yes.
municipality, I was glad to hear that. That was my question. So there's 3 municipalities that have not
Right.
taken advantage of it.
And I got very close with them. And one of them actually did say, well, we talked to the town council and they just want it online. I said, let me give them a chance to sit with that and then I'll come back and I'll say, you know, please pick which date or whatever. We also ask people to take the ethics training every 1 to 3 years.
Mhm.
So that's why I go after the people that haven't had it more recently.
Any other questions from
I
you?
just would also comment, in my time here on the commission, one of the things that I've noticed over and over and over is that people come for advisory opinions when they get told by somebody else, you might have a problem. So your education may not be reaching everyone, but your education is reaching people who are telling other people, hold on, you better be careful here. I've seen, I don't know, 15 of those.
And I do think that those kind of, with the leverage points, and I think it's solicitors, town solicitors, they should go through the training. Because they're the ones that will often be reached out to for advice, and we've seen a lot of people get not great advice from their solicitors.
Actually, you may recall that last year's report included, it might have been the year before, a specific training for solicitors that I did on Zoom. And I did 2 sessions to accommodate as many people as possible. And that was pretty well attended and it was geared towards solicitors. I think I even got them CLE credits from the Bar Association, continuing legal education credits. That draws a crowd. And people
Right,
want to
any
do
kind of
that.
incentive, I guess incentives, if there's.
I wasn't supposed to, I really had
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, in my time here, I feel like education has always been important and it's only gotten better and better. And since there's been this attention to having you here as the person that's really responsible and called upon to continually improve and continually enhance. So congratulations on the good work
Thank you.
you've done. It really matters. And I think it's great that you're dedicated to continuing to get those numbers up. And I guess my only other question is, do you have any evidence of the efficacy of what you're doing? Do you think is it making a difference in the people that are attending trainings or participating online? Is there a way to know?
The online people, I really can just see the numbers, and I can tell you that no one can scroll through the online training and say, oh, I took it. No, I know, I only ask people that completed it. It's when I'm out there live, and I presented to East Providence, employees earlier this week, or the last week, in 2 sessions, and there were 90 people in each session. And they were really engaged, and there was parts of this training, I'm not trying to be facetious, can be really boring, dry. And, you know, someone came up and commented and said, you know, we come in and we see a PowerPoint, the group I was with, and we groaned, and then we were like, no, and we're, you know, I won't say they were riveted, but they enjoyed it thoroughly. And I can also tell by the questions that people ask after training. Some of these questions, you couldn't form this question if you didn't understand the concept of recusal, you know? A lot of people seem to, it goes to what Commissioner Jones said, they think they'll think about what they hear and they'll say, well, I know somebody that did that, or somebody else that did that.
And they file a complaint.
That's true. That's how we can see the efficacy. So on staff, the people who answer the phones can tell where Lynn has been in the last few weeks, because suddenly
The
we're getting
breadcrumbs of
more phone
complaints.
calls, requests for advisory opinions, complaints being filed, right?
Right, so.
Well, thank you for
Thank
the
you.
work you're doing. Thanks for the report. This annual report, it's like we just had one yesterday. Okay. The next item is a motion to go into executive session, to wit, to take up a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session held on June 25th, 2024. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A, 2, and 4, and to consider In re Kenneth J. Hopkins, complaint number 2024-6, pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A, 2, and 4. And then to reprint out the section. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
So the meeting will, the open session live stream will end now, but if you're in the audience and you stay tuned, when we come back into open session, the meeting will reopen with a report out of any actions taken in executive session.